Welcome to Heart with Doc Martin, where I share with you some of my thoughts and challenge you to think a little differently. I'm going to tell you a little story today of a wonderful human being that I met in July of 2018. And this story has become known in my lectures as the Washy story. And it all happened on a cruise ship. We were on an Alaskan cruise. And as you might imagine on the sea days, because you're going to Alaska, it's not exactly the time that you're going to be sitting by the pool. So I took the advantage of this wonderful respite from life, and I was reading, as I typically do. And I was reading this fabulous book called The How of Happiness by Sonia Lyubomirsky, which is in my book review section. And I came upon some research once again by Dr. Amy Wrzesniewski. And the research was all about how people viewed what it is they do for a living. And so what she did was she went into a hospital and she asked a series of questions of janitorial staff and neurosurgeons relative to how they felt, what it is they did for work. And those series of questions then categorized their answers into three buckets, if you will. Did they look at it as a job, something where you just got a paycheck? Did they look at it as a career, something where you were looking for financial or positional advancement? Or were they looking at it as a meaning or a calling, rather, something that was serving the greater good of man and womankind? And this study has been repeated by additional researchers with additional subject groups with the exact same results. You know what they were? Although the neurosurgeons in the study I'm referring to had a higher number of individuals that felt their, quote, profession was a calling, there was a relatively even split, a third, between janitorial staff and neurosurgeons about whether they thought what they did for a living was a job, a career, or a calling. How crazy is that? You had neurosurgeons that were in it just for the money, and you had janitorial staff that saw what they did as serving the greater good of man or womankind. So I was reading about this research, and I want you to think about it as I tell you about my encounter. Now, on the first day of the cruise, for those of you who may have taken a cruise before, you know you typically embark onto the ship around lunchtime. Typically, the only thing that's open, certainly pre-pandemic, it was the buffet. And so we went up the stairs to one of the higher decks to go grab something to eat. And as we round the corner to the entrance to the buffet, we spy this beautiful woman standing there who works for the cruise line. And she is saying the following to the passengers. Now, I want you to picture this. It's in front of an archway. She's standing there in uniform, and she has a spray bottle in her hand. And she's spraying something into each individual's hands. What do you think it is? Yeah, it's hand sanitizer, even before the pandemic, due to the Norwalk virus, right? And as we approach, we start to hear what she's saying to the other passengers. And I'd like to share that with you without exaggeration or embellishment. Here it goes. Hi, how are you? Smiley, smiley, washy, washy, lunchy, lunchy. Are you hungry? Hi, washy, washy, smiley, smiley. My name is Miley, rhymes with smiley. Her name was Elena. And at first I was thinking to myself, what is this woman on? And very quickly I thought to myself, wow, what an interesting human being. What a wonderful human being. She was there on the first day. She was there on the second day. She was there the whole cruise. And what do you think started to happen on about the third day? Little boys and little girls were running up the stairs, and what do you think they were singing? Smiley, smiley, washy, washy, lunchy, lunchy. Men and women would come up to her with tears in their eyes. I witnessed this, thanking her for her attitude. Now, I want you to now fast forward midway through the cruise, and I'm sitting reading The How of Happiness by Sonia Lyubomirsky, and I come upon Amy Wrzesniewski's work again, because I had come across it several times in other books. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is this woman. I need to go talk to her. So I did. And I walked up to her and I said, excuse me. Yes, sweetie, she says. I said, can I speak to you for a minute? And by the way, I made sure it was like mid-afternoon, so there wasn't a big lunch crowd. I explained to her who I was, and I explained to her the research I was reading. And I asked her, I said, I have to ask you this. I said, you know, if I ran into you on land, like let's say at a restaurant or something, what would you say you did for work if I asked you that question? She looks at me, she goes, I work in a restaurant. I go, okay, bad question. I said, no, really. I said, if I were to meet you somewhere and asked you what you did for a living, what would you say? Boy, did she have a lot to tell me. She said, you know, sir, she said, I love my job. I really love my job. And when I say thank you, it's thank you for being here, not thank you for having lunch, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have this job. And I said, okay, so like, if I asked you what you did, like, what would you say? And she picks up her name tag and she says, I'm a waitress, but I make people happy. And she wasn't done with me yet. She looks at me and she says, you know, sir, my colleagues, my coworkers, they say, Elena, what do you do? What do you take? How do you work out? Why are you so happy? She looks at me square in the eyes and she says, I don't do anything. It's all up here. Holy smokes. Happiness, ladies and gentlemen, is all up here. Happiness, ladies and gentlemen, isn't toxic positivity. It's not one thing or another. It's not going on a cruise. If you happen to catch my interview with Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar, he talks about the SPIRE concept of happiness, where happiness is truly made up of a series of components, spiritual, physical, intellectual, relational, and emotional components. It's not just one thing. It's the culmination of many things. But that woman, that beautiful woman whose picture I have sitting on my desk right over there, I will never, ever forget. So I challenge you, how do you think about what you do for a living? Where does your happiness come from? And who can you look to in your life as the Washy lady? So, hey, listen, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click notifications so you don't miss any of our heart-to-hearts interviews or book reviews. And remember, life speaks to you. And if you think it doesn't, you're not listening. Take care. Bye-bye.